I got the audio right. Hey guys, happy Easter!
Happy Easter.
Welcome back to Resistance Chicks. It's Resurrection Sunday.
Around the world.
Round the world. This is literally the best day of celebration in existence. Forget everything else, okay? This is it.
Christmas
this is the
great.
be-all and end-all.
Christmas is great. Jesus came into the world.
Yes.
Easter.
Jesus overcame the world.
Oh my gosh, that was great. He overcame the world. Yeah. Things could have gone a little sideways there, between, what if, fell off a boat or something? No, I'm just kidding.
So, I have to tell you that my sense of humor, I am okay with the world's sense of humor on Easter, right? Mm-hmm. And in our local group, somebody had shared a picture of Jesus, like a drawing of him, popping his head out of the tomb, and then Mike DeWine was like over here with his mask on. That's our governor. And Jesus was like, "Can I come out yet?" Or something like that.
Oh, I saw the one with the police officer.
And Mike DeWine was like, "Not yet."
I saw the police officers come by and say, "Not yet, buddy." Not yet, buddy.
Here's the deal. The reason why that's funny is because of current events and the fact that Jesus overcomes death and the grave. Yep. And it's okay to laugh at stuff like that, I think. And plus, it was one of our more atheistic friends that I saw, Shannon, that shared it. And she thought it was so funny. Well, she's looking at Jesus.
Amen.
She's talking about him being risen from the dead.
And I honestly think that right now, even though you're not in a church building, most of you aren't. Some of you are. There are services. Mm-hmm. There are services happening around the world. But a lot of people are not in a church service that they would be.
Right.
And it's causing their neighbors and their friends to think about what Easter really means. Like, seriously, nobody cares about bunnies right now or really Easter egg hunts or any of that right now. And it really has brought everything into like a really fine perspective. And I'm very excited about that. So before I go, I think I was going to do the world news first, kind of, not exactly the most happy things in the world. We're going to cover the UK. Boris Johnson is out of hospital. He still doesn't look that great, but he has a good message. The Queen gave a historic message, Easter message. She's never done that before.
I know.
And her message is he is risen. So that's pretty exciting. I'm enjoying that. I decided to wear my British hat. I know you guys wear hats for everything. So I decided to wear a hat today because they just do. They wear hats, everything. Everything's a hat. But I love that, actually. I really do. I just don't know how half of them stay on. Because most of them aren't just like hats. They're like just a thing stuck to your head.
I know.
Right?
That's what you need a hat pin for.
Yeah, but I don't know. It would just blow right off.
Oh my gosh. So you know what scares me about hat pins?
What if you stick your head?
I poked myself in the eye today. There's this one glob of mascara that I couldn't get to separate. It was globbing.
Don't tell me.
And so I used a comb. I was trying to use a comb, like a little fine tooth comb, and I poked my eye, and I couldn't open it. So that's why I did the Melania eyeliner, because it's literally just spread, and I couldn't get rid of it. So I just was like, Melania does it. I'm going with it in the center there. Because it was like my eyes were watering, and the whole time I'm blow drying my hair, I literally had to blow dry my hair with my eyes closed the whole time because I had bruised my eyes. My eye. It was really, really disturbing. I've never poked my eye before.
If your eye causes you to sin, do not poke it out. That's an
allegory.
allegory.
I've never poked my eye before.
It's totally an allegory. All right, so let's go around the world to Easter celebrations around the world here.
This is very
kind of an empty, solemn. No people. Empty. Pope Francis celebrated the Easter Mass at its empty St. Peter's Basilica. In Jerusalem, the Easter Mass was also held in an empty church with wearing masks.
The sign of death and fear that we are seeing everywhere all over the world.
It's very kind of an empty,
at the good,
solemn.
All those are giving their life for the others. The message of Easter is that the life, despite all, will prevail.
The Jewish Passover blessing prayer at the Western Wall was attended by very few.
Wow.
The blessing normally draws tens of thousands. Churches around the world have turned to technology to reach people during Holy Week. From the washing of the feet ceremony, streamed live.
Welcome to the kitchen of our home on Easter Day.
Archbishop of Canterbury and the Easter sermon was delivered from the Archbishop's kitchen.
I love it.
His Son, Jesus Christ.
Power of Jesus Christ
Carolina.
happens to us every single day of life.
It's a drive-up service looks like.
You had a parking spot in between each car.
I know, because it's roughly like, it's over 6 feet.
In Rome, a priest held Easter Mass on the roof of a local church. This makes me tear up. These are really faithful people. Dozens of faithful were praying and attended Mass from the windows of the balcony. So that's a perfect view right there. I would have attended that.
I know, I totally would have too. Oh, that's so beautiful.
The famous Holy Week processions in southern Spain were canceled, but locals tried to recreate the typical atmosphere on their balconies. What the heck? What is that?
I have no idea. I don't think you should be wearing those though. I know you're not American, but still, that's
okay. That's not it. We have more. Here. I have some more. Okay, here we go.
St. Patrick's Cathedral is packed with worshipers, especially today on Easter, but the church is planning to live stream their services, and so are many other churches across the country. But in some states like Kansas and Michigan, some pastors are choosing to hold in-person services despite warnings from public health officials. This morning, Pope Francis celebrating Easter Sunday Mass in front of an empty St. Peter's Basilica. Easter is one of the holiest days of the year, but the COVID-19 pandemic is forcing some churches to close their doors. This traditional holiday prayer normally attracts thousands of Jewish worshipers to the Western Wall, now held with a small group of people. Here in the U.S., there was a fight over sitting in pews or watching a service online. In Kansas City, Kansas, the pastor of St. Luke's sending this letter to his congregation, writing, "When we gathered on Ash Wednesday, we took time to remember that we will all die. This is not something we can avoid, whether it's COVID-19 or something else. We need to come to terms with our mortality." But the state Supreme Court deciding late Saturday night to uphold the governor's decision to limit religious services of 10 people or more as Kansas rapidly approaches its projected peak during the pandemic. And in Kentucky, the same exact ruling. This just one small window into what so many in the U.S. are grappling with. Officials and pastors openly defying CDC recommendations and planning to open their doors to hundreds, if not thousands, of worshipers today.
If you're trying to celebrate Easter at home, you don't have to be in a church. Don't stop doing what you want to do as a family.
I think I practice safe measures and everything. I try not to live in fear. I've gone to church every day since, I haven't missed a Sunday yet.
In Jackson, Mississippi, Pastor Jesse Horton says his congregation will gather, but will also practice social distancing.
My concern is, why is it that everything else can be open?
The pastor at this church in Arizona changed course, closing his doors after receiving backlash from the community. The church continuing service online.
I want the community to know that I'm truly sorry to cause fear.
With so many turning to faith, churches are turning to technology, like Rick Warren.
And I said, if you truly love your congregation.
Chaplains are seeing an increased turnout as religious services have gone virtual.
Sorry.
Guys, they have been there for me on deployments. I cannot stress enough how important chaplains are to the military community. And right now, they are trying to stay connected with service members, especially those deployed to states helping during this outbreak. Whit?
Absolutely, especially during this.
So I want to talk first about her mask. Move to the side. Yeah. Here. All right. I got problems with this. Okay, because you are wearing a mask
like an accessory,
and you are in a crowd, and let's say you encounter coronavirus in this crowd, which is the point of the mask, and it gets on the front of your mask, okay, and it's protected you from, okay, now she's got that thing shoved up under her chin, and now that she's doing all this talking, she's breathing in all the coronavirus that possibly touched her mask, okay, that just goes to show that she is wearing this as a prop, okay, because they need to constantly remind people of what is going on, and they need to be participating.
She could have just easily not had a mask on.
She could have taken her mask off for the segment safely, okay? Because when they say that if you wear a mask improperly, it's dangerous. Improperly. Okay, now let's get back to the actual the idea behind churches that feel the need to go ahead and gather. My heart goes out to them because we are seeing a tyrannical governmental push that should never have its hands on the church. And so they feel like it is their Christian duty to say, you will not control us as the church. I get that. Okay? At the same time, here in Ohio, our governor said, we're not going to infringe on your constitutional rights. I'm highly encouraging and asking these pastors not to gather their church services. I respect that. I think that that is great. And a lot of church pastors really responded to that. And so what I feel like these churches are missing when they do gather, I'm not saying they should or they shouldn't, okay? I'll leave that up to each pastor, whatever. But I do know that we are living in a very interesting time where whether you're allowing your parishioners to celebrate at home in their family units in a unique way and passing the ball over to the leader of the house, whether you just live by yourself and you are your own leader, or whether it's a father at home and you just like, because they said groups of 10 or more. So what I would have done if I was the pastor of these churches is I would have said, all right, guys, we are going to, we're going to do this. We're going to set an example for the community, and we're going to gather together in these tight, small groups, whether it's your family unit or a couple of parishioners that don't have anybody, and they get together.
Like a list of what you should do.
Exactly. And that the power that comes in these small core times, you can't replicate that in a church service, okay? And I truly believe that if we had more church services of people just getting together and getting in the Word and talking to each other, okay, and praying together in a powerful one-on-one, you are my brother and sister in Christ moment, the earth would shake. And guess what? It is shaking because we are having those moments. And these churches that are gathering together, they're missing out on participating in that.
So if I were the pastor of a church, of a large congregation, I would say to everyone who has a strong spiritual leader in your home, somebody who loves Jesus very much.
Yes.
I want you to take charge of your home.
Yes.
For those of you who do not have, if you're alone, or if you're alone during Easter,
yeah, you should. Then
I would have organized like a sign-up sheet, and I would have encouraged people to take on one person to take on a leadership of 10. And to meet outside with chairs outside. And to bring like a laptop outside, and I would have the whole congregation together and have everybody on their laptops, right, or on their computers or whatever. And if they don't, just borrow one. Somebody has something for you to watch the service. You really do have that. And then the church, listen. Church budget, loan them something. You know what I mean? Like if you get down to the one person who doesn't have access to, the ability to get online, then you help them out. And just say, listen, get together, worship God in these moments, in these catacombs. And what you're saying is this. The pastors that feel that they have to meet in their church don't understand that sometimes God will move things into position and move you out of your comfort position to make something better happen.
Yes.
And they're trying to just continue on with what they're used to, what they're comfortable with.
And what, frankly, hasn't been working very well.
Exactly. And so the Lord gave me a word the other day that said, if something is not demonic, right, and is not, churches aren't canceled. You have the President of the United States saying, we're worshiping God. This is Easter. Right. Nobody's actually closing church. I mean, in some cases they are. In some cases they are. And in those cases, you do fight. Like with the drive-through churches. You should allow, if you can have, a drive-through hamburger, you should be able to drive through and see your pastor.
Exactly.
Right? And you should be able to drive up and see your pastor. Right? If you can have cars in a parking lot for going into the grocery store, you should be able to have cars in a parking lot for a church service. Right. So they're trying to think outside the box, and people like the governor of Kentucky are trying to literally say...
totally tyrannical.
So we have to speak out against that. That is insane and crazy.
Now, I'm pretty sure that a judge overturned...
the one case in Kentucky, but in general, it did not. So, but... In seeing if God pushes you out of your comfort zone, but you can still operate, he may be trying to do something better for you. And I think that with a lot of these churches, I watched a service today out of Zurich, and she said that one woman said that they got up early as a family and took a sunrise walk to a lake, and it was just a beautiful time as a family to do that.
I love it.
And then she said, she's a pastor or something, and she said that she spoke with somebody who, her husband was not a Christian, but because they had online services now, he would sit and watch the online services, and now he is a follower of Christ.
See now,
and he has come to know Jesus.
See
and
now,
so what I'm and so this particular church has decided that this is their, even though the money isn't coming in like it used to,
and that's why a lot of these churches are still
exactly
staying open.
The money isn't coming to switch and plant seeds in a different way, which we obviously have been doing beforehand. Sometimes, like Francis was saying, some people are not going to get up and go to your church, but they might meet you in their home, which is very interesting. It's actually kind of a reverse back to the early days of Christianity when church would meet in your home.
You can't fit a congregation of 300 or 1,000 or 5,000 in your home.
No, these were small home churches, and they would meet together. So anyways, I just think that we have an opportunity here if pastors and ministers, and what you're seeing here is people who aren't pastors of large churches getting online, playing their music, giving messages of hope, giving messages of the Word of God.
Tuning in.
And because there's nothing else to do, people are listening, and so
churches have an opportunity to reach people that they never would have reached before through this. And I feel like the ones that aren't taking it are barking up the wrong tree.
Exactly. All right, so around the world, here we go.
Oh, I like what Redneck says, that we are a congregation here on this channel. We absolutely 100% feel that way.
చెడుపై మంచి సాధించిన విజయానికి గుర్తే ఈస్టర్ పండుగని చెప్పారు బిషప్ సాల్మన్ రాజ్. మెదక్ చర్చిలో 5 ఫాస్టర్లతో పండుగను జరుపుకున్నామని తెలిపారు. క్రైస్తవ సోదరులందరికీ ఈస్టర్ పండుగ శుభాకాంక్షలు చెప్పారు. కరోనా బారి నుంచి ప్రజలను కాపాడమని యేసుని ప్రార్థించామన్నారు.
On Periscope, Ian says, you can never switch off from being the church. It ain't a building. That's the whole point. But, given our history throughout the world of being told you can't gather together, I understand the bristling. I get it. I'm not even harping on the churches. Okay? I'm not.
క్రైస్తవ సోదరులందరికీ ఈస్టర్ పండుగ శుభాకాంక్షలు చెప్పారు. కరోనా బారి నుంచి ప్రజలను కాపాడు.
Coronavirus is causing churches to not be able to meet in India. So
that's a good interpretation.
Thank you very much.
You speak, what do they speak there? Farsi or something?
The world. Today, Easter Sunday and Christians around the world are celebrating the most important festival in the Christian calendar. However, the restrictions as a result of COVID-19 have left many confined to their homes. Christians celebrate Easter Sunday as the day of Jesus Christ's resurrection, as written in the New Testament of the Christian Bible. The earliest recorded observance of an Easter celebration came from the 2nd century, though the commemoration of Jesus' resurrection is believed to have occurred earlier. Now, most churches are largely empty this Easter Sunday as religious leaders encourage their worshippers to join Easter service via online streaming. This is to avoid spreading the novel coronavirus, which has redefined virtually all human activities in recent times. Details on how churches hold Easter services online will be brought to you in subsequent bulletins.
So there's Africa. Great. Okay, here we go. We're going to, this is, I think this is Australia's.
Day on the Christian calendar, but this year, Easter Sunday was observed in a way not seen before. No congregations in churches, no family gatherings, and even the collecting of Easter eggs was done in a socially distant way. Despite that, the message of today still found its way into our homes.
See, and that's the point.
In what would usually be a packed St Mary's Cathedral, an Easter Sunday Mass without the masses.
It's been hard for us not to be together for these commemorations.
In a year of drought, bushfires, a global pandemic and the economic devastation that followed, for many, faith may be more important this year. While church doors were closed, the services themselves were delivered directly.
At this time of necessary physical distancing, we must be especially careful that we don't distance ourselves socially, emotionally or spiritually from each other.
With the grief of losing 3 of her children to an alleged drunk driver at Oatlands still raw, Layla Abdallah with a poignant reading.
Let your thoughts be on heavenly things, not on the things that are on the earth.
At St Andrew's Cathedral, unity in prayer while maintaining a safe distance.
Our God is not socially distant. He longs to hear our prayers and answer them.
And so, from the Anglican Archbishop, a prayer for the end of COVID-19, as well as for those helping us to fight it.
Those doctors, nursing staff, healthcare workers, as well as emergency services, police and Defence Force personnel, they need our prayers and our support.
Wesley Mission usually holds its sunrise service inside the Opera House, now a different view.
The coronavirus may stop many things that are part of our everyday lives, but it won't stop the message of God's love for all, and the hope that is found only in the message of Easter being proclaimed all across Australia and indeed around the world.
The service itself in its studios. Across a number of Sydney churches, services were delivered online. From Our Lady of Lebanon Maronite Catholic Church.
On Friday he was crowned with thorns, and today he has adorned his church with the crown of splendour.
To St Charbel's Monastery.
For I bring the joyful news that Christ is risen.
And Hillsong, where delivering the message of Christ to a congregation is well practiced, no matter how distant.
Today we celebrate.
Still complete with like the smoky.
Oh yeah, it's great.
Celebrate resurrection life. We celebrate our hope, our salvation, our healing and our freedom.
And with music such an important part of its services, performances recorded in Jerusalem.
Oh, praise the name of the Lord our God.
In these times of isolation, Easter Sunday gatherings were done a little differently. But another tradition seemed to go off without a hitch.
Let the hunt begin.
Easter eggs and the hunting thereof. In backyard after backyard.
Oh my God, is that a dollar egg?
Easter egg here. I got one again.
And home after home.
Oh my goodness, he left them everywhere.
The Easter Bunny, cleared by the authorities, performed his task diligently.
Edie, what you got?
Some reward at least.
We call it
ate it. But what did he leave you?
And after the finding comes the eating.
Happy Easter.
No doubt happier with a little or a lot of chocolate.
Happy Easter.
And for some first-timers, so begins a lasting devotion. It's said that Easter eggs are about more than just chocolate, that they symbolise new life. They don't come much newer than this little one. And from the young
Hey,
to
Grandma,
the still young
wait a minute. Oh my gosh, what is this? What is this?
These eggs, some of the 1.6 million donated by Cadbury to aged care homes, bushfire-affected communities and services such as
Look at that
Food Bank and Second
Happy Easter, everyone.
Eddie Meyer, 9 News.
Oh my God.
That was a great segment.
That was really great.
Okay, this one isn't quite as great, but it's from Germany.
Time as the world's 1.3 billion Catholics celebrate the holiday under coronavirus lockdown. He spoke to a small audience in St. Peter's Basilica instead of the hundreds of thousands who normally gather in the square. Pope Francis devoted his traditional Urbi et Orbi message to what he called this year's Easter of Solitude and called for global solidarity. Let's take a listen.
In the light of the present circumstances, may international sanctions be relaxed, since these make it difficult for countries on which they've been imposed to provide adequate support to their citizens. And may all nations be put in a position to meet the greatest needs of the moment through the reduction, if not the forgiveness, of the debt burdening the balance sheets of the poorest nations.
Well, let's cross now to Martin Gack, DW's Religious Affairs correspondent. Martin, what issues did the Pope touch on in his address?
The address was
dramatic rethink of Easter celebrations, but for Christians of all denominations. So let's take a look at how they're marking their holy day.
Lord Jesus, we love you today.
This Texas church holds more than 16,000 worshippers. This Easter, however, it's only Joel Esteen and a few of his team. But the preacher won't let that get in his way.
Lord, I thank you that you're bigger than a virus and bigger than fear, bigger than anything that's trying to stop us. I think that today, Lord,
I don't know if it's happened or not, but it's, I guess it is.
Special times call for special measures. Even the choir at Lakewood Church is working from home today.
Kanye West.
With most of the United States on lockdown, Esteen had to turn this year's Easter service into a virtual one. So did these priests in the Philippines. Despite the safety measures, they managed to fill every last spot of their church. Not with actual people, but more than 1,000 pictures of families who hope this will help their prayers to be heard.
That's pretty cool.
Staying home is the directive that is also being strictly observed in the heart of Jerusalem's Old City. Only a handful of priests attended Mass at the Church of the Holy Sepulchre, the place where Christians believe Jesus was crucified and resurrected. In the South Korean capital Seoul, which is not under a lockdown, worshippers could attend Easter Mass in person, while maintaining a safe distance. For congregations across the globe, the coronavirus epidemic has added a major challenge to Easter celebrations. Here in the French city of Lyon, only those living at the church site were able to attend the Easter Vigil. But despite all the challenges, this Colombian priest believes the situation also has a positive side. Because of coronavirus, Mauricio Cuellar just recently began connecting online with parishioners at home. Although it seems difficult, I think it's a renewal of the church, not only for us priests, but for the families themselves who have met again in this holy time. Well,
there ain't no excuses, honey. I don't feel like going to church. We turning on, sit your butt down. We turning church on. You can sit your butt down.
This Easter, pews in many churches around the world will remain empty.
Well, and you can't really leave the house. So if you turn it up loud enough, like the person that you can never drag to church, like you are gonna listen.
preachers like Mauricio Cuellar will continue to spread their messages, one stream at a time.
Now let's get you caught up on the latest developments on the coronavirus now.
We're going to give you the latest.
The US has overtaken Italy as the country with the highest...
We'll just finish. We're going to give you the latest. All right, so here's my last one for my Polish viewers. Eastern Poland here.
One of the sacred places to embrace Easter, which is the oldest and the most important Christian feast in Poland, celebrating the resurrection of Jesus Christ, is Benedictine Abbey in Tyniec. Tyniec Monastery has been keeping its tradition since 11th century. It is here where monks would serenade Gloria Lau, the Gregorian chant that dates back to the 9th century, on Palm Sunday, the last Sunday before Easter and the first day of the Holy Week.
And it is a reference to this moment when Jesus Christ was entering the city of Jerusalem, and he was greeted by the crowd who were laying palm leaves at his feet, greeting him as a king, as a son of David. This is our way of acknowledging Jesus Christ as a true king. It has many stanzas, and they all describe Christ as son of David, as king, as redeemer, as the one who was promised.
Faith is in the air, no matter where you go during this Holy Week in Poland. If you miss the Christmas market, you can always come back to the market square during the Easter. You can easily differentiate Easter market from Christmas market. The Easter eggs which dominate the Easter table, symbolize life and rebirth. These eggs have adorned Polish tables at Easter for centuries. The tradition is very much alive in Wolbusz, especially with the love and dedication of Wolbusz Housewives Club.
Życzymy wszystkim wesołych świąt.
You're welcome to join me at this beautiful Easter feast prepared specially for us by the Housewife Clubs of Wolbusz. Holy Saturday is the day of a joyful anticipation. On this day, decorative baskets with symbolic food, including eggs, are prepared to be blessed at church. It's a beautiful Saturday morning before Easter, and now our food are blessed and we are ready for the Sunday Mass and the big feast. All our experiences during this Holy Week in Poland could have been repeated this year. In fact, year after year. But we take the social distancing code of conduct for the year 2020 during the COVID-19 pandemic as blessing in disguise. Inspired by the lifestyle of a monk in Benedictine Abbey, we take it as the opportunity to stay a little closer to God.
We spend our whole life in one place, so it all gives us the sense of who we are, a connection to the rich tradition, but it also, spending the life in one place, allows us to calm ourselves down, to find peace with ourselves, to find out who we are, find both about our advantages and disadvantages, and among all this peace, find how to connect ourselves with God, how to arrive at union with the Lord.
We wish you a very happy Easter.
Okay, so that's Easter around the world. I hope you guys enjoyed our little jaunt around the world there.
No, that was really, really fun.
I think that the next place to go would be to Queen Elizabeth here. She says, Easter isn't canceled. Take new hope from the risen Christ. And we kind of touched on this on our Friday show. Queen Elizabeth II has delivered what is believed to be the first ever Easter message of her 68-year reign, offering a message of hope to people confined to their homes throughout the holiday by the coronavirus pandemic. I'm not sure. I think that, I just want to play it, let her say it.
Many religions have festivals which celebrate light overcoming darkness. Such occasions are often accompanied by the lighting of candles. These seem to speak to every culture and appeal to people of all faiths and of none. They are lit on birthday cakes and to mark family anniversaries, when we gather happily around a source of light. It unites us. As darkness falls on the Saturday before Easter Day, many Christians would normally light candles together. In church, one light would pass to another, spreading slowly and then more rapidly as more candles are lit. It's a way of showing how the good news of Christ's resurrection has been passed on from the first Easter by every generation until now. This year, Easter will be different for many of us, but by keeping apart, we keep others safe. But Easter isn't cancelled. Indeed, we need Easter as much as ever. The discovery of the risen Christ on the first Easter day gave his followers new hope and fresh purpose, and we can all take heart from this. We know that coronavirus will not overcome us. As dark as death can be, particularly for those suffering with grief, light and life are greater. May the living flame of the Easter hope be a steady guide as we face the future. I wish everyone of all faiths and denominations a blessed Easter.
Okay, wow, really the Queen, I know that she has people help her write things. No, what I read, she writes her own messages, but they do go over them and over them. Mm-hmm. So if she did, that is legit one of the best things.
That was really intense.
The Queen literally moved me to tears.
I know, me too.
The risen Christ, we're in darkness, the lighting of the candles, as one small candle here is kindled can light 1,000, and from the very first Easter, it's been passed on. And to see the visual of the message, I've got goosebumps, of course, to do. It's Easter. The message of Jesus Christ being lit and handed this fire in this candle, and it lights your wick, and it lights your wick, and it lights your wick, and then suddenly the entire world is lit up, which is why I do not believe Jesus Christ is coming yet, because he has many more wicks to light in my lifetime,
right,
and in probably generations to come. There are wicks to be lit. As much as the world has been lit on fire for Christ, there are more candles to light.
Amen.
Okay, that's why I don't believe Jesus is coming back in my lifetime, because I feel like Jesus does. We have more wicks to light. We have more candles to bring light to, and the flame and the fire of Jesus Christ, to where you get to the point, I believe Jesus will be coming back to where there is not darkness, there is no night, because there is light around the entire globe. Amen. And then Jesus is going to come back
for a victorious
church.
So I want to right now, because I know this isn't our Easter service message, but since you brought that up, I want you guys to understand something that has pervaded the church, and it is getting wiped away as we speak.
Yeah.
And that is the modern assumption of the way it will be when Jesus comes back, where defeat, okay? And everybody's looking at these microchips that Bill Gates wants to do for vaccines and stuff, and they're like, oh, this is it, it's going to happen. And so what that does is you take this preconceived notion that is not biblical about how the Jesus is coming will look, and you have this defeated mindset, and you never fight the devil, because it's all just prophesied, and you have no hope, and God is not victorious. But when you actually study the scriptures, we are living in what I believe to be a third great awakening, where more and more people come to Christ. And I believe that Jesus, when the Bible says that Jesus comes back for a pure, spotless bride, that means he comes back for the church that is ruling and reigning in this earth, where evil has to hide in darkness. And I was telling, I think, Horatio in a message today about when we lived in Oklahoma. It's easy to be a Christian. And because the Christians that are there are shining their lights so brightly,
They dominate.
It doesn't
They
mean
dominate, yeah.
that there are not that everybody there is a Christian. It just means that Christianity
Christian culture
dominates,
Yeah.
and that's the type of church that Christ is coming back for.
Amen.
A world where it is easy to be a Christian, where being a Christian is the norm.
Right.
All right, that is the body. And so that's what I want you guys to get excited about. He is not coming back for a defeated earth,
Oh,
a
absolutely.
defeated church where
Yeah.
just evil reigns everywhere. It is so not biblical, this understanding of how the church will look. And so you need to be excited about what God is doing. So when these families spend time and spend Easter service at home,
so here's
these lights are shining so bright.
I'm going to sing my song Isaiah 61 after this show is over. We're going to do some songs. I want you guys to stick around for that.
Yes.
When Michelle says it's prophesied, I know a lot of people like to pick out some things in Revelation or some things in Matthew and say there's going to be hard times. He was talking to, and especially in Matthew and Luke, to the disciples who were going to have to go through hard times then to set up the church.
Right.
Okay. Very much like the rebuilding of the second temple. There was a lot of persecution with that. But then the temple was built. Now, after Isaiah 61, which Jesus comes and he says, today this is fulfilled in your midst, opening the sight of the blind, proclaiming the acceptable year of the Lord.
Right.
Isaiah 62 is the prologue. It's the next step. So after Jesus comes, because he says today this is fulfilled in your sight, what's going to happen as a result of Jesus coming and healing people, as a result of Jesus coming and setting people free, as a result of Jesus coming and proclaiming the year of Jubilee? When you grasp onto that, you get that year of Jubilee and that healing in your life. And the more you share that message, which is the message of the kingdom, Lord, your kingdom come, your will be done. Jesus, if you look up, if you just put in Strong's Concordance, the kingdom, and you look through all the Gospels, you'll see that Jesus was coming to preach what the kingdom of God was and how he came. I just read, it's very fitting. Today I was reading, I'm in John, and I'm reading in John 18. When he, I'll just read it because I got a Bible. He says, my kingdom, Pilate says, or let me just back up just a bit. Let's go to John 31. Then Pilate, he's taken before Pilate. And then Pilate says to the Jews, you take and you judge him according to your law. And the Jews said, we can't, because it's not lawful for us to put him to death, and we want this guy to die. That's the saying of Jesus might be fulfilled, which he spoke, signifying of what death he would die. And then Pilate entered into the judgment hall again and called Jesus and says, are you king of the Jews? And he said, sayest thou this thing yourself, or do others tell this to you? Do you come up with this, or did others tell you this? Pilate says, am I a Jew? Your own nation, the chief priests, have delivered you unto me. What have you done? And Jesus said, my kingdom is not of this world. If my kingdom were of this world, then my servants would fight, that I should not be delivered to the Jews. But now is my kingdom not from here. Pilate says, are you a king? You say that I am. To this end I was born, and for this cause I am come into the world, that I would bear witness unto the truth. Everyone that is of the truth hears my voice. Jesus came to set up a spiritual kingdom that would spread over all the earth. How do I know this? Because of Isaiah 62. For Zion's sake I will not hold my peace. For Jerusalem's sake I will not rest. Until righteousness, therefore, goes forth as the brightness, and salvation as a lamp that burns. And the Gentiles will see your righteousness, and all kings your glory. And you will be called by a new name, which the mouth of the Lord shall name. You shall also be a crown of glory. Amen. A crown of glory. The church is to be a crown of glory in the hand of the Lord in every nation over the entire globe. A royal diadem in the hand of the God. You will not be termed forsaken, neither will your land be termed desolate, but you will be called Hezbah, and the land Beulah, which is my delight is in her. and your land shall be married. For as a young man marries a virgin, so shall your sons marry you. And as the bridegroom rejoices over the bride, so shall your God rejoice over you. I have set watchmen upon the walls of Jerusalem, which will never hold their peace day nor night. You that make mention of the Lord, do not keep silence, and give him no rest till he what? Until he establish and makes Jerusalem a praise in the earth. The new Jerusalem, this is us, the new Jerusalem.
The church.
And he will not give rest until the new Jerusalem is established over the entire globe. The Lord has sworn by his right hand and by the arm of his strength, surely I will no more give your corn or to be meat for strangers, and the sons of the strangers will not drink your wine. But they that have gathered it will eat it and praise the Lord, and they that have brought it together shall drink in the courts of my holiness. Go through the gates, prepare you the way of the people. Cast up the highway, gather out the stones, lift up a standard for the people. Basically, make it easy for people to come to me. Behold, the Lord has proclaimed unto the end of the world. Say to the daughter of Zion, behold, your salvation comes. Behold, his reward is with him, and his work before him. And they shall call them the holy people, the redeemed of the Lord. And you will be called, sought out, a city not forsaken. And you are that part of that holy city. The pilgrims thought that they were here to set up a new holy Jerusalem. And indeed, since the time of the pilgrims, Christianity has taken even stronger foothold and spread even more. And so I want you guys to be able to envision a victorious church that is spreading, a victorious church. And if in any ways you are not victorious, then you're held captive, and you activate the gospel of Jesus Christ in your life. As my mom would say, cry out, Jesus save me. Remember, God loves me. These are principles and these are tools that we can use as a church. So, as Queen Elizabeth says, Easter is not canceled. Take new hope from the risen Christ.
Amen.
All right, so do you want to go ahead and now play Boris Johnson?
I've today left hospital after a week in which the NHS has saved my life. No question. It's hard to find words to express my debt. But before I come to that, I want to thank everyone in the entire UK for the effort and the sacrifice you have made and are making. When the sun is out and the kids are at home, when the whole natural world seems at its loveliest and the outdoors is so inviting, I can only imagine how tough it has been to follow the rules on social distancing. I thank you because so many millions and millions of people across this country have been doing the right thing. Millions going through the hardship of self-isolation, faithfully, patiently, and with thought and care for others as well as for themselves. I want you to know that this Easter Sunday, I do believe that your efforts are worth it and are daily proving their worth. Because although we mourn every day those who are taken from us in such numbers, and though the struggle is by no means over, we are now making progress in this incredible national battle against coronavirus. A fight we never picked against an enemy we still don't entirely understand. We're making progress in this national battle because the British public formed a human shield around this country's greatest national asset, our National Health Service. We understood and we decided that if together we could keep our NHS safe, if we could stop our NHS from being overwhelmed, then we could not be beaten, and this country would rise together and overcome this challenge as we have overcome so many challenges in the past. In the last 7 days, I have, of course, seen the pressure that the NHS is under. I've seen the personal courage, not just of the doctors and nurses, but of everyone, the cleaners, the cooks, the healthcare workers of every description, physios, radiographers, pharmacists, who've kept coming to work, kept putting themselves in harm's way, kept risking this deadly virus. it is thanks to that courage, that devotion, that duty, and that love that our NHS has been unbeatable. I want to pay my own thanks to the utterly brilliant doctors, leaders in their fields, men and women, but several of them for some reason called Nick, who took some crucial decisions a few days ago, for which I will be grateful for the rest of my life. I want to thank the many nurses, men and women, whose care has been so astonishing. I'm going to forget some names, so please forgive me, but I want to thank Poling and Shannon and Emily and Angel and Connie and Becky and Rachel and Nikki and Anne. And I hope they won't mind if I mention in particular 2 nurses who stood by my bedside for 48 hours when things could have gone either way. They're Jenny from New Zealand, in Invercargill on the South Island to be exact, and Luis from Portugal, near Porto. And the reason in the end my body did start to get enough oxygen was because for every second of the night they were watching, and they were thinking, and they were caring and making the interventions I needed. So that is how I also know that across this country, 24 hours a day, for every second of every hour, there are hundreds of thousands of NHS staff who are acting with the same care and thought and precision as Jenny and Louise. That is why we will defeat this coronavirus and defeat it together. We will win because our NHS is the beating heart of this country. It is the best of this country. It is unconquerable. It is powered by love. So, thank you from me, from all of us, to the NHS. And let's remember to follow the rules on social distancing, stay at home, protect our NHS, and save lives. Thank you, and happy Easter.
I don't mean to poo-poo his remarks because I am very glad that he did not die. But in the beginning of March, he was laughing it up and holding people and hugging people and shaking hands and did not take it seriously until his own life was affected by it. So I just wanted to throw that out there. Some people, other people might not take it as seriously. So Boris Johnson is getting better. So you kind of, I guess, he was admitted to St. Thomas's Hospital, and within hours he was moved to intensive care with breathing difficulties. He was administered an oxygen treatment. He did not require a ventilator or sedation, and he was moved back to the general ward after 3 days. And then he was working. He was able to interact with medical staff after that. And so you guys saw his message there. The NHS saved my life.
So here's the thing, and like you just said, I'm not going to poo-poo his message. I'm glad that he's better. I do not want the UK to have a leader who is ill or even were to succumb in the end to this virus. That being said, I'm not comparing presidents or leaders or prime ministers. However, I didn't hear him mention anything about Jesus
for Easter
or God. He just kept saying Happy Easter, which Easter can be a pagan holiday for people, just the Easter bunny and whatnot, or it can be a Resurrection Sunday. We're celebrating Jesus Christ, and President Trump did. And I'm just saying,
comparing Trump's message to Boris Johnson's, Trump's was way better.
There's more hope when you throw Jesus in there. There's more peace. There's more optimism.
His beating heart
is more
is
literally
the
just
workers.
The hospital saved my life.
Right.
Okay. And you know what? Yeah, they probably did. Maybe God didn't have anything to do with it. Okay. I don't know. But I'm glad that you're okay. And for the rest of the people in the UK that are celebrating the resurrection of Jesus Christ,
listen to the Queen's message.
Listen to the Queen's message.
Honestly, the Queen is an icon, and I'm glad that she is where she's at. And I don't think you're going to have another one like her. And I just hope you guys have a
because
Prince Charles.
Well, there aren't any queens in line right now.
Well,
we've got a line of boys,
and I don't think that they'll be like their grandmother.
And they will not be like their grandmother.
19 NHS workers died from coronavirus amid shortage of the PPE. 19 National Health Service workers in the United Kingdom have died as a result of coronavirus amidst reports that frontline medical staff lack sufficient supplies of personal protective equipment to keep them from contracting the virus. On Saturday, Health Secretary Matt Hancock denied having knowledge of a link between the deaths of the healthcare workers and a lack of PPE, but he said that the government will launch an investigation to how they became infected with COVID-19. Mr. Hancock said that the country should pay tribute to the foreign board NHS staff who lost their lives, but doubled down on his call for medical personnel only to use the appropriate amount of protective equipment, calling it a precious resource. My heart goes out to their families, and the fact that such a high proportion are from people that moved to this country to work for the NHS is really heartrending. To see people who have literally given their lives to the NHS, who were moved here to give that service, I think that we should pay tribute to them. Jeez, he's just does not a good man for words here. On Friday, the health secretary announced a 3-point plan to be sure to shore up supplies of PPE in hospitals, saying that with the help of the military, some 742 million pieces of PPE have already been delivered to the hospitals on the front line of the pandemic. There's enough PPE to go around, but only if it's used in line with our guidance. He says we need to everyone to treat PPE like a precious resource that it is. That means only using it when there's a clinical need and not using more than is needed. Mr. Hancock's comments on the use of protective equipment drew criticism from leading health officials in the country. I take offense, actually, that we are saying that healthcare workers are abusing or overusing the PPE, said the chief executive of the Royal College of Nursing, Dame Donna Kinnar. Kinnar said that nurses were still reporting shortages of PPE, adding that no piece of protective equipment was more precious a resource than a healthcare worker's life, a nurse's life, or a doctor's life. The council chairman of the British Medical Association, Dr. Chinad Nagpal, said the healthcare workers are facing heartbreaking decisions as to whether they should continue treating coronavirus patients without sufficient protective equipment. This is an immensely difficult position to be in, but it's ultimately down to the government's chronic failure to supply us with the proper equipment. The government has maintained that there's no shortage of protective equipment. However, nurses at the Northwick Park Hospital shared photos on social media in March showing them wearing bin bags amidst a lack of medical gowns. On Friday, it was announced that
trash bags.
Yeah, announced that 980 people have died from the coronavirus just in one day, surpassing the daily records in Spain and Italy, bringing the total of deaths in the country to 8,958. And so with that, I do want to go to the UK could be the country worst affected by the coronavirus in Europe. The government is a government scientist.
They were really late. They were later than everybody else in their social distancing
and in the coronavirus. Once Italy had a few coronavirus patients, they started to in a tiny little area. They quarantined a tiny area and then a bigger area. Mm-hmm. But the UK, Boris Johnson went to hospitals with COVID-19 patients and was like, "It's no big deal. We're going to let this thing run its course."
They wanted to do herd immunity, which is not a non-thing. It's a thing that you could do with lots of death and sickness.
Well, and then I do have an article saying that some patients have been, South Korea says nearly 100 recovered COVID-19 patients have again tested positive.
And that's the thing. Everybody keeps saying once you've been tested for your antibodies or whatever, you're cleared to go. Or even once you get vaccinated, you're cleared to go. Okay, once they have a vaccine, don't take the vaccine. Well, I could get sued for that. Take it under extreme advisement before you take the vaccine. I will never take a vaccine for that. But this thing is already known to mutate. Mm-hmm. Already. So it's going to mutate and people can get reinfected.
Yeah. So, Sir Jeremy Farrar, a member of the Scientific Advisory Group of Emergencies, told the BBC's Andrew Marr on Sunday that while he was hopeful over the rate of infection slowing down, he admitted the UK could be hit worse than hotspots of virus in Spain and Italy. It is possible the numbers in the UK continue to go up. I do hope that we are coming close to the number of new infections reducing, and in a week or two, the number of people needing hospitalization reducing, and tragically the number of deaths plateauing and starting to come down. But yes, the UK is likely to be certainly one of the worst, if not the worst affected country in Europe. Globally, 1.78 million people have contracted the virus, but we know it's probably more than that. Several millions of people. Italy has seen the highest number of deaths, 19,468 in the whole world, while Spain has the highest number of confirmed cases at 163,000. And then the United States, which has 530,000 confirmed cases, but we're a huge country and we're doing an immense amount of testing. The UK has the fourth highest number of deaths globally, with the UK's death toll hitting 9,875 on Saturday. It is highly likely the UK will hit the 10,000 fatalities mark today on Easter Sunday, with daily fatalities in the 900s for the past 2 days. It is possible the country could also reach the grim daily record of 1,000 fatalities from the Chinese virus. Asked how Germany managed to keep fatalities at a relatively low rate, Mr. Farrar put it down to the country's rigorous and widespread testing, an area in which the UK is falling behind, followed by isolation of positive cases, which reduces transmission. While he said that testing buys you time, however, it is my viewpoint that treatment and vaccines are our only way. That's what he's saying, is the exit strategy. Sir Jeremy then gave a stark reminder that in pandemics there may be multiple waves of mass infection. I think the chances of second and third waves of this epidemic are probably inevitable. The Spanish flu had 3 waves between the spring of 1918 and the summer of 1919, peaking during the second wave in autumn of 1918. Therefore, having the right treatments to save lives, but also having, they're saying, a vaccine. I do not believe that. So I'm just giving you his words.
So Firehorse says that it is already 10,000.
Okay, well, I'm going over here. Yep, thank you, because that was my next article. Over here, if you guys want to just get your own updates, Zero Hedge has the very best, and they are like not mainstream media news, so they're going to give you like the most honest, not always, facts are facts, you're trying to get the best facts, but the most honest views. So, yes. Italy reported 4,000 new cases and only 431 deaths. So remember, we were doing these, coming, and there's 7 and 8 and 9, and I think I don't know if
in Italy.
Now they're down to 431. Wow. That is a very low number.
Are they finally?
They're on the other side.
Are they treating with hydroxychloroquine?
I don't know. I would hope so.
Well, it would be really interesting to see if that's why their numbers are dropping.
Italy's had 19,899 deaths of the COVID. The number recovered climbed to 34,000. In Singapore, the number of new cases confirmed hit 233. That was a surprising jump in a city-state that recently imposed a very strict lockdown. Meanwhile, in France, the number of new cases climbed by the lowest level in a week, but deaths did go up by 561.
So that when it talks about climbing by the lowest level, it makes you think it's not climbing, meaning it's not actually still going up.
I understand what it means.
It means that if it was climbing by 3%, and then 4%, and then 5%, and then 6%, and then 7%, and then it only climbs by like 5%, it's lower, but it still is climbing.
Right.
So still going up.
You guys can see this. So here's with this being 900 down here, this is the New York.
This is
the deaths have gone down a little bit here, so hopefully that is a peak going down. This was the meme I saw. I guess you guys can't really see this, but here's Jesus, and here's a cop car. Jesus trying to come out, and he says, "Don't think about it." Meanwhile, the UK Department of Health released figures for the rest of the UK, confirming that the rate is accelerating across the country. The UK reported 5,288 new cases and 737 new deaths. They are over the 10,000 mark. They are at 10,612. And so you do have, let's see, we talked about Easter. Prime Minister Boris Johnson is out. Italy reported a sudden jump in deaths yesterday, ending a promising streak of declines. Spain on Sunday reported a daily death toll of 619. Let's see. All right, I wanted to give you the, let's see. On Saturday, both the Spanish and Italian governments celebrated what looked like progress in combating the virus and assured the population that transition back to normalcy would begin soon. So, again, I do, and I'm not going to go into those. There's good news and there's bad news. What I'm think there was the one on the price of EU membership, healthcare rationing for the elderly in Italy and Spain. With well over 500,000 confirmed cases in Europe, a growing number of regional medical authorities have begun issuing guidelines and protocols that call for hospitals to prioritize younger patients over those that are older. And I see that happening in Sweden.
It's terrible.
Still.
It's terrible.
In Italy and Spain, the two countries most affected by the coronavirus, doctors in overwhelmed intensive care units for weeks have been making life and death decisions. The new protocols, however, amount to government directives that instruct medical personnel effectively to abandon elderly patients to their fate, even though we are seeing people coming out at 104, 94, 100. I just watched a 100-year-old woman walked out as a coronavirus survivee.
So here's the question. In that scenario, like, what do? You
just let them die, I guess.
No, I mean, like, I would say you just have to continue to treat patients in the order in which they came?
Oh, well, I don't know. I think that they have the ability to give the medical care to everyone.
And they just aren't?
And I think they just aren't.
That's really sad.
In addition to the ethical questions raised by the rationing of healthcare according to age, the denial of medical attention to the elderly, many of whom have paid into the social welfare system all their lives, also cast a spotlight on the shortcomings of socialized medicine in Southern Europe, where austerity measures imposed by the European Central Bank have resulted in massive budget cuts for public health care. In Spain, the regional government in Catalonia, an area hit hard by the coronavirus, issued a confidential protocol which effectively advises the elderly people afflicted with the coronavirus should die at home. In documents leaked by several Spanish media outlets, the Catalan Emergency Medical Service instructed doctors, nurses, and ambulance personnel to inform the families of older patients suffering from COVID that death at home is the best option.
Stop it.
The document stated that dying at home was more humane as it avoids suffering. Patients can die while surrounded by their families. I guess you're going to infect everyone.
They're just assuming that they will die, though. That's the thing.
But that's sending a really bad off person home for the family to care for this coronavirus patient. You're spreading it that way. That makes no sense. The document says the recommendations endorsed by the Council of Physicians Association in Catalonia stated that patients over 80 years old should not be intubated and offered only oxygen mask therapy. But I'm going to tell you this. That actually might save their lives even more.
Because the intubation is not really the thing.
It's not really helping people. 80% of people who are intubated. So getting the oxygen, what happens with the COVID is that you need more oxygen. And so that actually might be the most helpful thing. And then just hoping that the people at home who will all be infected, have the immune systems to fight the virus.
Right.
Let's see. The Catalan Minister of Health, and what is very interesting is that they don't say, and send them home with hydroxychloroquine and a Z-Pack and a vitamin C drip. I'm going to say, you know what? I would rather treat my family members at home. I'd rather be treated at home if I could. Give me the Z-Pack. Give me the hydroxychloroquine. Give me an oxygen mask. Give me an IV drip. Let a nurse come to my house and just hook me up and let me go home with the IV drip, and we'll tie it up and just keep dripping it in my vein, baby. Yeah. And that's probably the best thing for anyone, and that's kind of like the only way out anyways.
I know.
So yeah, you can treat yourself at home. If you're going to send me home with all that stuff, yeah, let me go home. I'd rather do that. Yeah, like I would rather treat my family member at home that way. Like I totally would. I would do that. You know what? I'm with you. I'm 80. Treat me at home. All we are doing is offering patients the best option for their situation, they're saying. So in Italy, a document prepared by a crisis management unit in northern city of Turin also proposed that coronavirus victims aged 80 or older or those in poor health should be denied access to intensive care. So here we go back to our personal experience. Michelle and I aren't sure. We had something very interesting happened to us. You guys know I had that cough. It was a very dry cough. It started with and I've had sinus infections that have started with a sore throat. I woke up one day, I had no other symptoms whatsoever, but my throat was on fire.
I thought you couldn't talk that first day.
I lost my voice that whole day. You guys know I lost my voice. Whatever hit my throat, I lost my voice for like a month almost.
But that one day it was just instant.
Just my voice was totally gone. I couldn't speak. I couldn't do anything.
Your first symptom.
And Michelle had something. So there's
mine was body aches, chest pain, fever. There were 5 of them that I had. The 5 classic symptoms, whatever it was, I had them all.
So remember, this virus has 8 known mutations,
right?
Which is why everybody is having every symptom known to mankind,
right?
Okay, except for sneezing. That's going to be your allergies. All right, that's just your allergies. It's pollen in the air and things like that. So I tend to think that with if I had the combined symptoms that Michelle had, I would say for sure I had it. But I'm telling you, we had some some antibiotics, fish mocks, guys. I say stock up on it. I don't know if people can sue you up on that, but you just stock up on some fish antibiotics.
You can't get them now.
You can't get them now anywhere.
Not really. It's really hard to find them, especially the good ones that they used to sell.
Okay, well, it was finally antibiotics that kicked it, but the antiviral that I took was all the essential oils, oreganos, and putting oregano on my feet, downing a ton of oregano. But I think that my missing key there was also with the Z-Pack needing an antibiotic as well.
Right.
And yeah, it was crazy because I couldn't sleep. I just couldn't sleep because all I did was cough and cough and cough and cough and cough and cough. But we're not seeing that strain. I think that strain went through because we're not seeing the coughing anymore. We're seeing the headache and fever,
right,
and the chest version.
Right. It was in the beginning. It was the cough. St. Mark says, I had a strange illness back in December. I had the same as Michelle. Got it from nowhere. Body aches, fever, headache, etc. Maya says hyperbaric therapy will help. I have heard this. I read that as well. My cousin is a nurse. She says when they draw blood from COVID-19 patients, it's nearly black due to the lack of oxygen in the blood. That's what it is. It's the lack of oxygen. Andrew Lane says vitamin C is the cure.
Yeah, exactly. So, anyways, there are cures, so I don't want you guys to be afraid of this. And I just don't think that Italy and Spain are up to snuff on treating people right now. In Sweden, again, the document reveals elderly coronavirus patients will not be prioritized. This is where socialism leads you to not, because here's the thing. When you're under socialization, the socialized medicine and a social network, you ration, okay, and it's a very sad thing, where the elderly should be taken care of just like everybody else. But a document from Karolinska University Hospital in Stockholm has revealed that the coronavirus patients over 80 and those over 60 with multiple organ failure, you have to have multiple organ failures, will not be given priority in intensive care. The document confirms prior reports that Swedish authorities were looking to prioritize certain groups of people for intensive care who are more likely to survive severe cases of the Chinese virus if or when the hospital capacities are overwhelmed. Along with patients over 80, those 60 to 70 who have multiple organ failures will be moved out of intensive care. And then they have this concept of biological age versus chronicle age. So I don't know, Sweden, everybody's looking at Sweden as not being one to go on strict lockdown, but they're a very small country. They're spread out anyways. They do have some city hotspots, but they are actually looking towards a more strict lockdown.
I think it'll be really interesting because my gut feeling is, at least in the U.S., that things are going to start to open up at the end of April. I think that a lot of these restrictions are going to start to lax. And it'll just be interesting to see. I think the numbers will speak for themselves.
Yeah, so here we have nurses are honoring a 99-year-old World War II veteran who beat the coronavirus. He in Doncaster, England.
That's so awesome. Mr. Chambers, who will turn 100 in July, received a Guard of Honor from the NHS staff in Tick Hill Road Hospital in Doncaster.
Thank you very much, and I appreciate everything you have done for me.
You've done amazingly.
You couldn't have been better. Now there.
Aww.
So I want you guys to see some good news there.
Yeah, and every life is worth saving. It doesn't matter how old you are. Every life is valued.
Yeah. 4 friars commemorate Good Friday on Jerusalem's Via Dolorosa. Just before noon on Friday, 4 friars proceeded down the Jerusalem's empty Via Dolorosa to commemorate the Way of the Cross. walked by Jesus before the crucifixion on Friday. So there's that. Finland, latest country to receive faulty Chinese equipment to fight the coronavirus. The CEO of the Finnish Center of Security of Supplies has announced that the first order of respirators and medical equipment delivered from China does not pass European standards. CEO Toman Lunema stated that the medical equipment, which Finland received earlier this week, did not pass tests that would allow it to be used in the country's hospitals. The Ministry of Social Affairs stated the equipment could be used in other situations, maybe drywall. Protective medical supplies are beginning to run low in parts of Finland. Currently, the protection market is very chaotic compared to the normal situation. Really? When you know who you are dealing with and with the products are internationally known brands, right now there's a wide range of traders and many of those fake Chinese. You gotta watch it.
China, like that lady going around touching all the laptops and stuff in the Walmart.
The stuff coming from China, like some is legit good stuff, but there is a knockoff of a knockoff of a knockoff of everything in China. So the Finnish case comes after several other countries have reported faulty medical equipment shipped to them from China, including the Netherlands, where authorities recalled 600,000 defective masks and filters. And then Canada recalled $200,000 worth of masks manufactured in China for their poor quality. So this is I was going to skip over this, but I wanted to give our own spin on this because I think that the Pope got, there's a kernel of truth on an ear of corn. The Pope Francis says pandemic is nature's response to human inaction over climate change. Pope Francis says he believes the Chinese coronavirus pandemic is certainly nature's response, because what is God in this, right? He's really not a Christian. I just have to tell you guys this. So to humanity's failure to address the partial catastrophes wrought by human-induced climate change. Asked by British journalist Austin Ivory whether the COVID-19 crisis is an opportunity for an ecological conversion, the pontiff reasserted his belief that humanity has provoked nature by not responding adequately to the climate crisis. Nature. There is an expression in Spanish, God always forgives. We forgive sometimes, but nature may never forgive. We did not respond to the partial catastrophes. Who now speaks of the fires of Australia, or remembers that a year and a half ago a boat could cross the North Pole because the glaciers had all melted. Who speaks now of the floods? I don't know if it's nature's revenge, but it's certainly nature's response. Every crisis contains both danger and opportunity. The opportunity to move out from danger. Today, I believe we have to slow down our rate of production and consumption to learn how to understand and contemplate the natural world. So I think that what happens is the devil comes in as an angel of light, and I do believe, and I know a lot of my Catholic viewers tend to think that this pope is a black pope. I am not against I'm not against Catholicism. I love Catholics. I believe that Catholic Church has been, definitely kept apart by God just as much as the Amish have, or different groups. God keeps a remnant going. Anyways, but this pope, this is why I believe that he is not being used by God, but by a darker force, is because if he were truly speaking from God about nature, it wouldn't be about this. We talk about this, and I won't spend a whole lot of time about climate change. I believe that this is God's gift to use something like this to bring us out, to make us not consume as much stuff, because those factories churning out cheap things like bad masks from China are not only bad for consumers and bad for you and me, bad for the environment. If you're going to be making something and using resources, let it be from a resource that is replenishable. Let it be done in a wise and an ethical manner, in a way that is not wasteful. And back in World War II, the whole world understood this. We had victory gardens. We had people planting food. We had people doing things that would nurture the earth, okay? We had moms who would take flour sacks and make dresses out of them. We had flour companies who would actually make printed material and even put patterns on flour sacks so that you could. Exactly. So we had a whole running system of people saying, let's use less stuff. Let's think clearly. And so I don't think that the Pope is wrong in saying that the virus might actually lead to a better world, but the whole climate change thing has been debunked. There's horrible models on the whole carbon thing, and carbon is actually good for the plants because it makes plants more green. So this is how I know the devil flips it and there is a problem, but they create a fake problem and a fake solution to a real problem that has real solutions.
Very good.
Yeah. Okay. So bye, Pope. All right. So Boris is recovered. There's a petition demanding the resignation of this WHO chief. He is a
the one that
puppet
threatened
for China.
The one that threatened us.
Threatened us a couple times.
Oh my gosh! I don't know if we even shared that on air.
We did.
We really?
Yeah.
Where he threatened everybody?
Yeah.
Oh my gosh! There's going to be more deaths.
This guy, General Tedros, he covered up we watched this on Tucker. Pandemics in his own country, I think of Ethiopia. I'm not sure if that's where he's from or not. I'm not sure. But Director General Tedros they're calling for his resignation and the inclusion of Taiwan in the globalist body has neared 1 million signatures on Sunday morning. The campaign began on January 31st with a petition titled "Call for the Resignation of Tedros." I'm not going to say the rest of his name. The WHO director appeared on Change.org. It now has 100. The author said that it was partially to blame for the number of infected cases increasing more than tenfold from 800 to more than 10,000 in as little as 5 days. So we do know that the WHO is... they came out and said, China says there's no human-to-human transmission. Taiwan says, yes, there is. Taiwan is not being listened to or even acknowledged. And so I say yes to that. Step down for sure. Now, you can take the police state and being careful and social distancing to a very Nazi-like ending. Inform on your neighbors. British, what is NI? NI police launched lockdown reporting site. Another British police force has launched Northern Ireland. Okay, here we go. Northern Ireland. Well, I wasn't sure.
We're American. What do we know?
Northern Ireland. Another British police force has launched a website for people to inform on their fellow citizens who they believe had broken the coronavirus lockdown measures. The police service of Northern Ireland urged the public to report any instances of citizens allegedly not abiding by the social distancing rules introduced by the government, such as public gatherings of more than 2 people, traveling for non-essential reasons, or continuing to operate businesses that have not been exempt from the lockdown rules. Tattletales. No one likes a tattletale. And so they're telling people to call that in. I feel like that is just way too crazy. This Easter, even though we can't be together, we can still do something special. We can help save lives by staying at home, protecting the most vulnerable, protecting our frontline workers, and protecting our health service. The Humberside Police in Northern England, I guess I gotta switch my accent, has also established an online reporting portal for people to inform on alleged lockdown violations after police emergency lines were flooded with complaints. Now, there is an app for you to tail.
Oh my gosh.
Here we have Dellingpool of Breitbart says Boris must stop temporary coronavirus lockdown becoming permanent big government.
And that's the issue that we have here that people need to understand. There are forces that be that have intended from day one to use this to gain complete control.
Right.
All right. Then there are forces that are fighting against that.
Yeah.
Okay. And there are reasonable measures that should have been taken.
Yeah.
Smaller than probably what we ended up doing. Okay. More like guidelines. Okay.
Yeah.
But you need to understand that they really do want to take over the world. They really do want to take over your freedoms. They really do want everybody in gray jumpsuits. Okay. I mean, this is their end goal. To control every aspect of your life.
I don't know how far back it went, but there was a video I wanted to share with you guys on, I guess as...
Although, hang on, no, let me do a rant on tattletales really quick. Because I got an issue with this. When I was a child, raise your hand if you were like me.
I can't find it.
Wait till I tell you what it is. I didn't like the fact that tattletales, you say nobody likes a tattletale, and they're supposed to be like the bad guys, right? Mm-hmm. Well, I refer to those over here in the United States, we call those people Karens. Those are the people that are just first to go, nah, they did it, nah, 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 nah. But as a child, my, like, thinking was, if I see somebody doing something wrong, I need to tell somebody.
Right.
Like, and it bothered me as a kid that to be labeled a tattletale when the kids on the playground were like picking on another kid or doing something they shouldn't be doing, and then I go and tell a teacher, and then I'm a tattletale. And I remember one time the teacher told me, "Well, we don't do tattletales," and I'm like, "But they're doing something wrong. Like, how is that? Like, so then you feel like you're the bad guy. So hang on, there is an appropriate time to report people for doing things that are wrong." Okay, but then we have the personality trait that goes and makes up things and seeks out things.
Is this actually hurting somebody? Somebody jogging down the beach. You may not agree with it. It might be against the rules, but are they hurting someone?
Yeah,
no,
I mean,
leave
come
it be.
on. Exactly.
Just leave it be.
You don't need to make us think for just no reason. All right, now hang on. Britt Plaza says, Michelle, I was out and about the other day. What I found was the police are driving around in pairs in cars with no PPE, along with civil enforcement officers not social distancing while walking around.
Yeah. So,
and yet they will arrest you for being out there.
Yeah. And so long as Prime Minister Boris Johnson remains, blah, 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 there's a man-made disaster state. This is the disturbing state of affairs outlined by Fraser Nelson in a column for the Daily Telegraph entitled, Boris is worried lockdown has gone too far, but only he can end it. Nelson has talked to a number of ministers in Boris Johnson's administration and found a cabinet confused and divided. It is split into three factions. Some think the lockdown is, if anything, too lax. One minister has even proposed adopting French-style system, demanding that no one steps outside without papers and authorizing them to do so. Then you have those who think the cure is already worse than the disease and want to phase out lockdown at the earliest opportunity. Then a third group who think it doesn't matter what the government thinks. Public opinion, they argue, led us into the lockdown, so only public opinion can lead us out. This disarray is disturbing enough for those hoping for a swift end to Britain's lockdown misery, especially if Boris Johnson remains in recovery, which he actually has been recovering, and out of full communication for weeks, if not days. What's even more frightening is the clear implication that none of this was really planned. It's the result of terrible misunderstanding. Our message was supposed to be keep working, but work from home if possible, says one minister, but that message got lost. The Treasury expected 3 million claimants for its job retention scheme. 9 million are now expected. The plan was for about 1 in 5 school pupils to stay in class, not just the children of key workers, but also those regarded as vulnerable or with special needs. Instead, it seems just 2% of pupils turned up. This was troubling Boris Johnson during his initial COVID self-confinement. He'd started to discuss with his colleagues, had they overdone the message? The stay-at-home exhortations were issued with such vigor because it was assumed wrongly that Brits would not really listen. Instead, we become as obedient as Swedes, while the Swedes, in their collective refusal to lock down, are behaving like Brits. But it's hard to soften the lockdown message with the Prime Minister and now until he fully recovers. As I've argued early in the fiasco, this is from Delingpole and Breitbart, whatever your feelings about Boris Johnson and Donald Trump, we in Britain and the U.S. are most fortunate to have leaders whose instincts tend towards liberty rather than bigger government. Unfortunately, there are plenty of conservatives in name only in both administrations who think the exact opposite. This is a great worry if, as I do, you fear the great coronavirus pandemic of 2020 has leapt upon as a great excuse for a monumental power grab by the liberal left. Whether or not the liberal left succeeds depends to a great extent on how swiftly our leaders can steal our countries to normality before our economies lie in total ruins and big government has socialized everything. Perhaps the scariest thing so far, more scary than you might argue, than anything the actual virus has managed, is the effect the media-generated hysteria is having on a cowed, abject, and complacent populace. Instead of resisting draconian constraints on their freedom, a disturbing number of people have welcomed them. Not content with sheepishly doing exactly as they are told, they have gone so far as to snoop and to snitch on their neighbors for perceived infractions, such as taking more than one piece of exercise per day. That's stupid. A friend of my father's experienced this just the other day. A fellow shopper reprimanded her because she was trying to buy a nail file along with her groceries.
Stop it.
we appear to have...
Hang on, because that is essential.
Right.
Okay? That is essential. I broke a nail yesterday when we were out helping a friend clean up the tree from the tornado that we had. And I had broken my nail, and I couldn't keep working until I went and fixed it. Like, I couldn't. It was driving me crazy.
Yeah. So, we appear to become trapped in an availability cascade, the phrase used by Nobel laureate Daniel Kahneman to describe the dangerous interplay between media and policymakers. And so you kind of see that this hysteria builds up. And so what would become, in my opinion, hey, let's not have large gatherings. Hey, it makes sense not to have 10,000 people in a stadium, in those simple things. And then you only have a handful of people without jobs when you're not getting together and you're not having concerts or the big celebrations or big parades or even school. School can be done remotely. And if you can work from home, you work from home. But now we've gone to where your neighbors are calling you up because you're playing T-ball with your kid outside.
So yeah,
and that is what
Firehorse had said in the chat here on YouTube that they're arresting people for being out in their gardens.
Yes, and I was trying to find some videos. I had a video of somebody in their front garden and a cop coming up to them with no mask, no PPE. She's not worried, but saying, you're harming people by being in your front yard.
No, you can't. Here's the deal. When you try to tell people what they can and cannot do on their own property,
right?
I got all kind of problems. I have... Telling corporations, like you said, the concerts and stuff like that, listen, you can't hold those kinds of things. You know what I'm saying?
Right.
Like that sort of thing I kind of can see, right? Now, Firehorse also says, I have family and friends and neighbors with the coronavirus. Please don't mess around that this isn't real. It is very real, guys. And our best friend in New York, she knows for a fact it's real. She's got multiple people texting her all the time about people that they have lost, like their father, their aunt, their uncle, whatever. Okay, this is very, very, very real.
They're locking people up for gardening in their front yard. France has released 8,000 prisoners in 1 month due to the coronavirus. These are prisoners. The country's prison system is still overcrowded, but French Justice Minister says the overcrowding
they are doing this to cause chaos on purpose.
Which was 119% on March 1st, with more than 72,000 inmates. And so now they're just letting people go, and I'm not happy about this. They're doing it all over the place. One of the prisoners released as part of the scheme in the department may find himself back in prison after he was arrested for stealing a car and brandishing a hatchet at police, and they were forced to subdue him with a canine unit.
Oh dear. Oh
so that sounds great. Okay.
Bob says, Michelle, that was the Northampton police that said that they got hauled over the coals for it.
Okay. That's great. Okay, are you ready for some news that's not COVID-19 related? This is absolutely crazy. I did not know this. Just came out today. Assange has 2 kids that he fathered with his lawyer who would come and visit him in the Ecuadorian embassy. WikiLeaks founder Julian Assange fathered 2 children with one of his lawyers while holed up in Ecuador's embassy in London for much of the past decade, a report said Sunday. The 48-year-old Australian is allegedly the dad of 2 boys, aged 2 and 1, born to South African-born lawyer Stella Morris, the Daily Mail on Sunday reported. The newspaper published the report alongside photographs of Assange with the toddlers and an interview with Morris, who said they fell in love and were planning to marry. The couple have been engaged since 2017, according to the paper, which said it learned about the revelations in court papers seen last week. Assange is being held in London's high-security Belmarsh prison as he fights an extradition request by the United States to stand trial there on espionage charges, which I say are bogus. Let Assange go. The Mail on Sunday said Morris chose to reveal their relationship and the existence of their sons because she fears Assange's life is at serious risk if he remains in Belmarsh. Morris, once the one-time hacker released under British government plans to allow some prisoners temporary release, but Assange last month failed in a bail bid based on his risk of catching the virus, with a British judge saying there were no grounds for his release. Assange's lawyers could not immediately be reached for comment. WikiLeaks responded to the report on Twitter. Julian Assange's newly revealed partner, mother of their 2 young children, urges UK government to bail him and other vulnerable prisoners as coronavirus sweeps prison. Obviously, Julian Assange is not a threat to the public. Put an ankle bracelet on him. It makes no sense. The whistleblowing organization posted its own video interview with Morris soon after, in which she detailed her purported 5-year relationship with Assange. Assange faces charges, we know about that.
It'll be interesting to see if whatchamajiggy covers this.
So he reportedly conceived the first child with Morris in 2016. The couple had begun a relationship the previous year while the lawyer visited him to work on his legal situation.
The Canadian people.
Rebel?
Ezra Levant.
Rebel?
If Ezra covers it, then we can believe that it's true.
Real. There's a message out. She's out.
She's put a message out there, but we haven't heard from Assange.
Assange watched the birth of both children in London hospitals via live video link and met the elder boy named Gabriel after he was smuggled into the embassy. Both boys are said to be British citizens and have reportedly visited their father in prison. Morris told the Mail on Sunday, "I love Julian deeply and I'm looking forward to marrying him. Julian has been fiercely protective of me and has done his best to shield me from the nightmares of his life." She said that she had lived quietly and privately, raising Gabriel and his brother Max while longing for the day we could be together as a family. Now I have to speak out because I see his life as on the brink.
No, I love it. I hope that it's 100% true and she's being 100% on the up and up. I don't see any reason why she would lie. What I do think, though, is that her coming out now is a strategic move on their part because it makes him seem more human.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that there will be a lot more push toward, getting him out of prison.
Yeah. In Stockholm, Sweden, the police prepare for civil unrest at overstretched hospitals. More than 20 police officers with specialized crowd control training will be stationed at hospitals in Sweden and the Swedish capital in case of unrest if intensive care beds run out. Very interesting here. The cases of coronavirus, along with deaths from it, continue to surge in Sweden. The Swedish Intensive Care Register has noted 469 people in Sweden have been or are currently in intensive care due to the virus. While hospitals are currently managing to cope with the influx of coronavirus patients, local authorities are preparing for scenarios in which they could become overwhelmed. According to the report of a Swedish newspaper, police in Stockholm are preparing for potential unrest and rioting in the city's hospitals due to a lack of ICU capacity.
Oh, dear.
That's kind of crazy. They refused to give any details, instead saying what we are doing now is that we are securing, we have a security mission. We should be able to handle any disturbances. I haven't seen that happen around the world, so I'm wondering why they think it's going to happen there, if they're just not going to give care to migrants or something.
That's a good point.
I don't know.
Right.
And in Italy, the 5-Star Movement members threatened to collapse the Italian government, which would be a big thing for Salvini. The discontented members of the 5-Star Movement have threatened to pull the plug on the leftist coalition government over their resort to the use of European Stability Mechanism. The M5S members have opposed the prospective deal reached by the European Union member states to aid Italy amid the coronavirus. The M5S Senator Marco Giosuruso announced his opposition to using the ESM, an EU bailout fund that provides assistance in the form of loans, with EU finance ministers reaching a deal this week to make $240 billion available to combat the virus. I am saying this clearly. If the government has said a yes to the ESM, this majority will no longer have my vote. He added that he expected other M5S representatives to vote with him, or the entire movement could face a radical refoundation. If Conte does not keep his word, the M5S will have to pull the plug on this government, with or without buts.
That's a
without
translation.
ifs and without buts.
I get it. Okay, with or without buts. That's good, Leah. Oh my gosh, what am I going to do with you? Okay, so Mom says she's lost, that she thought that Assange was married with children already. He was married. He got a divorce, and I think he did have children.
But he was divorced.
Does have children, but he is divorced now.
Yeah, he is, single man. And so I don't know where this is all going to go. The collapse of the Italian government would likely see Salvini's League emerge as the largest party in Italy. And the Friday poll showed the League with 26.9% of support, and the center-left coalition with Salvini and his allies polled at 46% in total. So we'll see where that goes. Italian PM warns European Union could collapse over coronavirus. This is the leftist Prime Minister Conte floated the idea of all of Europe doing things on their own due to the European Union's poor response to Italy's tragic experience. They have left Italy on their own. We covered this last Sunday. We do not expect Germany and Holland to pay our debts, but the fiscal policy rules must be loosened. Conte is calling on the EU to rise to the challenge in helping countries that have been worse hit by the Wuhan virus. Remember, they need this the euro here to help bail them out, whereas in the United States we just print. So they're saying we need the EU to come to our aid, and they're just not. They're just not helping. So do you think that the European Union could dissolve as a result of this? I don't know. We'll see.
Let's pray.
But that's the end of our show, our European show for today. There's a lot going on. Pray. Right now, the hardest hit. Italy seems to be coming out. The clouds are beginning to part. The sun is beginning to shine. 431 deaths yesterday, while the UK is on the uptick. The hardest hit could be harder hit than Spain and Italy. Yeah. So our hearts and our prayers go out to our cousins across the pond. With all this that is happening, and on this Easter Sunday, I pray that you are with your family, and that you are with loved ones, and that you are remembering the risen Christ who defeated death. And I have perfect song for this, but we need to shut this down so that's 2 hours, so we don't have another. They won't upload very well after 2 hours.
Right, exactly. So what we're going to do is we're going to do a kind of an Easter Sunday service if you want to come back and join us here in, maybe it'll give me like 15 minutes to get the stream set up and come back. So we'll do some songs. You might have a word for the people. Or just songs.
Some worship. Just worship.
Just
I think,
worship.
Yeah, if you guys want to go back to the Friday, I had a word. We gave some good words in the beginning here, but now we got to sing. You got to sing. You got to sing.
Okay. All right. Sounds good. We love you guys. God loves you. God bless. We have a P.O. Box, 107 Milford, Ohio, 45150. If you send us your letters, we will read them on air.
Yeah.
I want to do a special thanks. Robert Bone sent us that honey baked ham. I'm going to cook that after our service here, our sing along. So that's really awesome. Yeah, we go live every Friday at 6 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, and every Sunday at 1, where we cover our European and UK news, talk about our brothers and cousins from around the world.
And if you guys just came in like maybe the second half of the show, go back and watch the first half with preaching. Easter around the world. Well, just the Easter around the world. It's just so wonderful to watch. Where everybody's at around the world. I just was really moved with people and the Christians making that extra effort too. It wasn't just trying. Here's the thing. I remember, a lot of people just go to church on Easter and Sunday. They feel like they've done something good. But now it's about your relationship with Christ. Because you got to step outside of yourself. And you've got to make that effort to make a connection with God. Rather than just like putting your ticket in and said, I went to church and now I can sin. Or now I can do this. No, it's like an all-day thing. It's an all-life thing now. And I'm very excited about that.
No, I am too. It's all about community and your relationship with the Lord and your family, and that's what this day is really about. And Jesus is risen. He is not dead, but is alive. We love you guys. God loves you. God bless. Remember, it's not just a conspiracy theory if it's
Michelle
actually
took the
truth.
Off and made these dresses.
Do you know what? And this is not showing up very well on this specific lighting, but I got these on clearance at Kohl's for our Plymouth trip. And I don't know that that's going to happen or not. And I thought for Easter, I would wear mine, and then Leah came down in hers. It's the same print. Except for Leah's is a dress, and this is just a shirt, and then I've got this other printed jumpsuit underneath. So, it is what it is. But we do kind of look like, I'm feeling that.
I'm feeling like a tapestry.
The heels are alive. When she made the outfits out of the tapestries. Yep. Yeah, I'm feeling it too. Okay. We'll see you guys back here in like 15 minutes. God bless.
Cold.